Hey folks, Mark Levin here. Now, before we dive in today's episode, I want to talk about something truly valuable, protecting your financial future with gold. It's called diversification. Now, for that, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're the real deal with 5-star service and a sterling reputation. So give them a call today. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Trust me, you'll thank yourself in the future. Now let's get to the show. Results may vary. Consult with your financial professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Out of the shadows, my life inside the wild world of Hunter Biden, Lunden Roberts, the mother of Joe Biden's granddaughter, who I don't believe he's ever met, will be on the program in hour 3. She has a book out. They've asked to come on, and we're more than happy to speak to her. So that will be Lunden Roberts, out of the shadows, in hour 3, the Power Hour. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Democrat convention. I'm watching all the reportage on it, including the enemy channels, where they're literally slobbing all over each other. They need to wear bibs. The spittle is so constant, flowing like a river out of their orifices. They're so excited. Ladies and gentlemen, Kamala Harris is already their nominee by default. She was their nominee 10 days ago. They did it virtually. There was no convention when they nominated her. She hasn't received a single vote, not one, for the nomination for President of the United States. Yet this party is going to install her, has installed her, and now is having a big party that they installed her as their nominee. After the convention, you'll have a choice between voting for somebody, Donald Trump, who actually received votes from American citizens and won the nomination fair and square, and Kamala Harris, who never received a single vote from a single American citizen for president at any time. Now, this is fundamental because you have a conga line of buffoons, grifters, political hacks, Marxists who are millionaires who preach poverty. You've had the Obamas, they were on in the phony duet, and they're not alone. You have a Democrat Party that is the most fascistic party this nation has ever seen in terms of its operation. In terms of its operation. And you know what? Many people are perfectly fine with it. So this is not a nominating convention. She's been nominated. They changed their rules. They brushed off Biden, who's somewhere in California now, shuffling around, probably have a leash on him to make sure he doesn't get too far, you know. That's what they did. This whole thing is a farce. This whole thing is phony. It's like a fiction. It's some kind of a movie. Obama gets up there, the Mr. Obama, claims, he's the best friend and everything, stabbed him in the back 1,000 times. Didn't want him as the nominee the first time, helped broom him the second time. And the Obamas hate Dr. Jill. Not a word about Dr. Jill. They hate Dr. Jill. And yet you're supposed to believe it's all pretty copacetic. They have up there Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, a Marxist Islamist. He's not even a member of the Democrat Party. He's a member of the Democrat Socialist Party. That's okay. It's a big tent there. Leninists, Trotskyites, Maoists, Stalinists, whatever. That's their tent. Joe Biden droned on for hours. Not once did he mention the word Israel. In fact, Barack and Michelle never mentioned the word Israel. In fact, Hillary Clinton never mentioned the word Israel. Why is that? They used to, decades ago, but not anymore. We know why that is. We know exactly why that is. And of course, they'll have Josh Shapiro, as Michael Rappaport said, who's tried to un-Jew himself, and now they'll put him up there and he'll be screaming at the top of his lungs. They'll present him as an example of why they're not anti-Semites. You know, he's a useful idiot. And there's the husband, whose law firm represented the PLO, as I understand it. Another useful idiot. But we know the policy. She's meeting in secret with Islamists who talk about the destruction of Israel, talk about cutting Israel off while it's surrounded. Oh, yes. All this stuff on TV and radio, this whole convention, is not about your reality. It's not about what you face, what you confront. Harris supports the destruction of women's sports. She can talk about abortion all she wants. And it is problematic, I think, that when we have conservatives on radio and TV, they don't talk about this enough. Women's rights is about more than abortion. Women's sports has been fought for half a century. The 1972 Education Act that amended the Civil Rights Act was to ensure that women were treated like women and that they had equal access to sports and funding for sports. And so Biden sought to destroy it. The Supreme Court just ruled 5-4 no. 5-4 with Gorsuch, who's very, very strange on this issue. Very strange. I assume a member of his family might be affected. He always throws in with the radical left on this issue and solely this issue. But 5-4. Kamala Harris does not support women's sports. She's destroying women's sports. Kamala Harris does not support a mother's right to make decisions about her child. Whether it's what kind of books they read in government schools, what they're taught about sex in government schools, about indoctrination on CRT in government schools. And she picks somebody, a governor, the most radical governor in this country, Tampon Tim, who doesn't believe parents should have the final say on whether their children should be sexually mutilated, either by surgery or medicine or not, if the state decides otherwise. Does that sound like somebody who supports women's rights? Kamala Harris supported the appointment of Jackson to the U.S. Supreme Court, who won't even define what a woman is. Does that sound like somebody who supports women's rights? We allow the Democrats and their party to say they support women, but they don't support women. You know what else they support? The draft, which is to include girls, women. Women in the draft. They support that too. Is that supporting women's rights? They're weak on crime. They're weak on crime. Well, in the rape statistics, overwhelmingly, who is it that gets raped and by whom? Women by men. Girls by boys. So when you're weak on crime, when you're busy contributing to organizations that provide bail to criminals, when you support Soros prosecutors, as she was a Soros prosecutor before there was a Soros prosecutor, when you're weak on crime, when you appoint activist judges, how is it that you can be for women's rights? She's not for women's rights. She's a Marxist Islamist. She backs Hamas against Israel. She uses Hamas's statistics. If she cuts off Israel, Hamas wins. Hezbollah wins. The Houthis win. Iran wins. The Islamists win. How do they treat women? How does Iran treat women? What does Iran do to girls that don't cover their heads with scarves? They torture, rape, and murder them. So how is it that Kamala Harris stands for women's rights or the rights of young girls? Open borders. We have the worst slavery situation in our country since the end of the Civil War. Women, girls, little boys, mostly of color, sold into sex slavery, sold into pornography. Open borders. The border czar who pretends not to be the border czar. But she is vice president of the United States. She can speak up. She can influence policy. And she has. She supports open borders. She opposes the Border Patrol. She opposes ICE. And the consequence? Women sold into slavery like never before. And children sold into slavery like never before. Labor slavery and sex slavery. Mostly people of color. Is she for women's rights? No, she's not. She uses women as she uses everyone else. That's what Marxists do. That's what they do. Price controls will destroy every supermarket, every grocery store in this country. The shelves will be empty. The prices will be through the roof. Is that women's rights? I'm just curious. Driving up the price of fuel with a war on fossil fuels, wanting to effectively nationalize our oil companies. Is that women's rights? That women have to pay more for gasoline? What about single women? Now, I have to confess, when it comes to abortion, nobody has a more radical position than Kamala Harris. Abortion right up to the last minute. Well, that even doesn't sound like women's rights. What do you mean, Mark? I assume that includes aborting little girls. That's right, aborting little girls. Have you ever seen a documentary of how you abort a baby in the last trimester? How about in the last week before birth? How about right before birth? Have you ever seen one? No, you haven't. Do you know how gruesome that is? What is it that you're actually removing? Killing and then removing. Use your mind's eye. Use your imagination. A brand new baby that is removed from the womb, dead. It is killed in the womb. The difference of centimeters. Can we at least agree that that is monstrous? Can we at least agree that it is Hitlerian? Can we at least agree on that point? Can we at least start from the birth and move our way back? Can we at least agree on that? Well, Kamala doesn't believe a mother or parents should be involved in the decision making. How do you know, Mark? Because she appointed as her running mate Tampon Tim. And he believes abortion at any level, at any time, without parental notification. You watch this Democrat convention. It's a clown show. Everybody's excited. Everybody's joyous. This is pathetic. This is grotesque. This is a party that is cheering somebody as a candidate for president who never received a single vote, who had a coup against the individual who did get a single vote. This is a party that doesn't believe in the American system, doesn't believe in the electoral system. This is a party that will use race, that will use sex, that will use class warfare, that will use anything it has to for power. For power. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The cracks in our economy are widening by the day. We've got a labor market that's cooling faster than expected. Unemployment jumped to the highest since the end of 2021. The market could be in free fall any day as investors panic over a potential recession. Now, some bank stocks are getting hammered as fears of a downturn grow. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts to prop things up. In uncertain times like these, you need a solid plan for your wealth. That's where gold comes in. It's been the ultimate safe haven for as long as we've used money. And when it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're a top-rated American gold company and can help you protect your hard-earned money. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait. Call 800-900-8000 today. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. There's a camp called Camp Timberlane, and it's for Israeli kids whose relatives were killed or captured on October 7th. And Shaquille O'Neal cut a video message for the children who are at this camp. And here's what he said. Cut 3, go.
Camp Timberlane, hello, shalom. This is Shaquille O'Neal. Just want to give you guys a shout out, let you know I love you. To all the amazing children from the one family, I know you came from far and far away. Hope you're having a good time. We love you so very much. Thank you for coming, and we'll talk to you soon. All right? Shalom, Barak Hashem, L'Shala Tova, Shabbat Shalom.
How do you like that? How many of you have heard that before? I guess none of you, right? Because the censorship is on for those who support the state of Israel and these children and these families. That's where the censorship is. The so-called protesters, the Hamasians who support terrorism, there's no other way around it, who are being funded by Qatar, who are being funded by Iran, who are being funded by Democrat Party oligarchs. There's no comment about any of this. All those protesters being bussed in to Chicago. It's as if they don't exist. 1924, the Klan tried to get into the Democrat Party convention. There were some delegates who were members of the Klan. I believe it was the longest convention ever. They had 103 votes or something like that until they decided on their candidate 100 years ago. So 100 years ago, the Democrat Party had a Klan problem. And today, they have a terrorism problem with Hamas and their ilk. And I see no reason to candy coat this. No reason whatsoever. Mr. Producer, top of mind thought, see if you can get the governor of Pennsylvania on the show, Josh Shapiro, next week. I'm sure he's busy at the command, but let's see if we can get him on the show next week. I've got a lot of questions for him. We'll treat him with respect, but I do have a lot of questions for him. We'll be right back. This is Mark Levin with an urgent message. We are living in grave and dark economic times that are going to get worse. We just saw an abysmal jobs report while unemployment shot up to the highest level since the end of 2021. Meanwhile, the stock market looks like a gamble. Many banks are getting crushed as recession fears mount. The S&P Banks Index fell 2.4% in a single day. That's a lot. Regional banks fell nearly 3%. That's even more. These are bad signs. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts. You need to protect your wealth. That's where diversification and gold comes in. It's been a bedrock of wealth preservation for centuries. And the best company I know of is Advantage Gold. Their experts can help you protect your savings from economic chaos. Call now, 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Don't wait. Call now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
Mark Levin, an unapologetic patriot and unapologetic constitutionalist. You can reach him at 877-381-3811.
Now, at this convention, you did not hear from the Obamas, Biden, about Israel. You know what else you didn't hear? About Hamas. They act like it's not going on because they don't want to upset their base. That's why. Now, folks, we got to come to grips with this. They're burning the American flag. They're carrying the Palestinian flag and the Hezbollah and Hamas flags. When you have a political party that won't denounce it, that won't denounce elements within their own party that are anti-American, that are anti-Israel, that are anti-Semitic, that are pro-terrorist because they're fronting for them, they're carrying their flags, for God's sakes, then there's something deeply wrong with that party. That's not the party of Hubert Humphrey. That's not the party of George McGovern. That's not the party of Scoop Jackson. That's not the party of Harry Truman, Franklin Roosevelt, John Kennedy. That's not the party of the Democrat Party of the past. It's like two worlds. You watch the coverage, and you watch the liberal Democrats fronting for it, talking, oh, we got energy, we got... But substantively, below the surface level, this is what's going on. And with all the reporters, thousands of them there, it's not being reported. Do you know who Mossab Hassan Youssef is? I don't expect you to know. I didn't. Mossab Hassan Youssef. It's a Palestinian. He's the son of Hamas co-founder. And a few years back at the UN, he was given an opportunity to speak, and they were shocked at what he had to say. And he was sitting right behind the Palestinian representatives. And when you watch the video, they are shocked, they're upset, they keep turning and looking at him. This is 7 years ago. Now, I want you to listen to what he has to say, because the words that he has to say cannot be spoken at the Democrat convention. At the Republican convention, Israel was supported, Hamas was denounced, the Hitler Youth in the streets were denounced. The universities and colleges that allowed to take place what took place, they were denounced, openly denounced, openly denounced. They are not being openly denounced at this convention, such as it is. They are not. This is the Democrat Party of the 1920s, which had so many racists and bigots. So many racists and bigots. But this convention is being managed more with an iron fist. They already have their nominee. They had their nominee before the convention. She's meeting secretly with Islamists. That would be like meeting secretly with the Ku Klux Klan in the 1920s. Oh, yes. And by the way, Michelle Obama, you're trashing Donald Trump. You're calling him a racist. That is unconscionable. That is unconscionable. You remember the Democrat Party. Your husband chose as his running mate Joe Biden. Joe Biden has a history of racism and segregationism, which he kind of had to overlook, didn't he, Michelle? He has a long history of racist acts and racist statements. And yet, Michelle, you were perfectly fine with him being chosen as vice president, weren't you? It's amazing to me that the Democrat Party, the party of slavery and segregation, the party of eugenics, the party of Jim Crow, The party of the Confederacy is pointing fingers at Republicans. And now the party of full-throated anti-Semitism tolerates this growing poison within its ranks, right into the vice president's office. Well, here's Mossab Hassan Youssef, who in this one statement says more about Hamas than the vice president who seeks to be president, Kamala Harris, has ever said. Cut to, go.
My name is Mossab Hassan Youssef. I grew up in Ramallah as a member of Hamas. I address the words to the Palestinian Authority, which claims to be representative of the Palestinian people. I ask, where does your legitimacy come from? The Palestinian people did not elect you, and they did not appoint you to represent them. You are self-appointed. Your accountability is not to your own people. This is evidenced by your own total violation for their human rights. In fact, the Palestinian individual and their human development is the least of your concerns. You kidnap Palestinian students from campus and torture them in your jails. You torture your political rivals. The suffering of the Palestinian people is the outcome of your selfish political interest. You are the greatest enemy of the Palestinian people. If Israel did not exist, you would have no one to blame. Take responsibility for the outcome of your own actions. You fan the flames of conflict to maintain your abusive power. Finally, you use this platform to mislead the international community, to mislead the Palestinian society, to believe that Israel is responsible for the problem you create. Thank you.
He would have been good at the Democrat convention, don't you think, Mr. Producer? But he wouldn't have been welcome. We have a pro-Hamas protester in Chicago's Union Park. We didn't have a whole bunch of pro-Hamas protesters at the Republican convention because they knew that would be pointless, didn't they? They have no influence, no persuasion over that convention. But they have friends, one of whom spoke, AOC, another of whom spoke, Bernie Sanders. Here's one of the protesters in Chicago's Union Park wearing a Hamas headband. Cut 4, go.
What's your headband?
This is the headband for the military wing responsible for the resistance operations in Gaza.
Hamas?
Yeah.
Okay, do you support Hamas?
I do.
Why do you support Hamas?
So I would support any and all resistance operations that fight for the freedom of our country, for the freedom of Palestine.
Does that include October 7th?
Yes.
You support October 7th?
Yes.
Why?
Because it didn't start on October 7th. It started in 1948. October 7th is just a response to that.
But do you support the actions on October 7th?
What actions are you talking about specifically?
Like specifically the sieging of kibbutz and the murder of innocent civilians in their homes?
It was established and proven that the murder of innocent civilians was actually committed by the Israeli military.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
I've seen the body camera footage from Al-Qassam brigaders breaking into homes and murdering people.
They broke into military sites as well as homes, but it doesn't matter because...
But you support the breaking into the homes?
Yes.
How do you think he's going to vote? Think he's going to vote Republican? How come Michelle Obama hasn't denounced that? Did Michelle Obama, Mr. Producer, ever put out her statement against what took place on October 7th? I know it was very, very, very late until Barack Obama spoke out. This doesn't suggest they supported the specific actions that took place. But they're very, very careful to manage their base, their support. I want to be blunt about this. Not one single Democrat thus far has gone to the microphone. Not one. And defended the state of Israel against Hamas. Not one. An ex-president, a sitting president, An ex-first lady. Oh, they gave fantastic speeches. Oh, they should be chiseled. Oh, Mount Rushmore. Oh, they're just unbelievable. They're fantastic. Not one of them had either the morality or the guts to speak out. And I ask you, America, is that okay with you? It's like during the Holocaust. Franklin Roosevelt wouldn't speak out. He had a Jewish Treasury Secretary, Morgenthau. He complained to FDR bitterly that the anti-Semites in his State Department were preventing Jews from entering the United States. But he never went public. He didn't speak out at any Democrat convention, did he? Or as I'm the only one that repeats time and again, 1940, because it's grotesque. The Republicans and some Democrats finally got a bill to the president's desk in 1940, outlawing a federal law outlawing lynching, and Roosevelt wouldn't sign it. These Democrats today, they go to the microphones, they go to the podiums, and they pose as great civil rights leaders, great humanitarians. They've never denounced their own damn party. And they won't denounce what's taking place in our own streets. Oh, every now and then, Dougie Emhoff speaks out. You know, this is going to be my focus, this, anti-Semitism. Every now and then we'll get a little burp. And that's all it is, a little burp. Oh, what a convention they're having. They're so excited. The media are fawning. Oh, it's unbelievable. They're united like never before. Around what? And for what? Around what and for what? They don't really want to tell us, do they? You know what this is? This is an anti-Trump convention. That's all it is. It's an anti-Trump convention. They are concealing as best they can their Marxism, their anti-Semitism, and their bigotry. They're doing everything they can to keep a cap on it. They wave around the issue of abortion to conceal their horribly anti-woman, anti-girl agenda, whether it is sports, whether it is parental rights, whether it is the protection of children. That's right. And their media do it for them. Their media sit right there. They smile. They party together. They exchange jokes. That's all. That's all. This is an anti-Trump convention. Their nominee was already picked, handpicked. And history will remind us about this convention. History will remind us, assuming the country still exists, that this is a horrendous event. A horrendous event. And Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, will show up. He will be cheered because they need Josh Shapiro to be cheered. He wasn't good enough to be the vice presidential nominee. No way. But they need him to go out front, just like they need Dougie Emhoff, Harris's husband, to go out front. Just like FDR needed the Jewish ownership of the New York Times to do his dirty work to help conceal the Holocaust. I got it. I know exactly what's going on. So do the media, because the media were part of it in the 1930s and 40s, and they're part of it right now. They know exactly what they're doing. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The cracks in our economy are widening by the day. We've got a labor market that's cooling faster than expected. Unemployment jumped to the highest since the end of 2021. The market could be in free fall any day as investors panic over a potential recession. Now, some bank stocks are getting hammered as fears of a downturn grow. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts to prop things up. In uncertain times like these, you need a solid plan for your wealth. That's where gold comes in. It's been the ultimate safe haven for as long as we've used money. And when it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're a top-rated American gold company and can help you protect your hard-earned money. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait. Call 800-900-8000 today. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. So what are we doing here? Where are we here? Well, let me say this to you. I'm trying to find, where did I put it? Right there. The counter-revolution is what you're witnessing. The counter-revolution to the American Revolution. It's in full force. It can no longer be dismissed or ignored, for it is devouring our society and culture, swirling around our everyday lives, and ubiquitous in our politics, schools, media, and entertainment. Once a mostly unrelatable, fringe, and subterranean movement, it is here. It is everywhere. You, your children, and your grandchildren are now immersed in it, and it threatens to destroy the greatest nation ever established, along with your freedom, family, and security. Of course, the primary difference between the counter-revolution and the American Revolution is that the former seeks to destroy American society and impose autocratic rule. The latter sought to protect American society and institute representative government. That is the first few sentences of American Marxism. I went back and paged through my old book. The 1.4 or 5 million of you who have the book, you do well to do the same thing. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Let me ask you a question, America. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, two Marxists, they have in the past proposed wealth taxes. Kamala Harris, like Joe Biden, has proposed a 25% wealth tax. You know what a wealth tax is? Now, you know what an income tax is, right? Tax on earned income. You know what a sales tax is? When you buy something, you pay a state sales tax. You know what property taxes are? You own real estate, you pay a property tax. What's a wealth tax? You know, we've talked about this before. It's not really a wealth tax. Give me an example. Let's say 20 years ago you bought a home. Let's say you bought it for, what, $250,000. Let's say the assessed value of your home, you haven't sold it, you still own it, the assessed value by the tax assessor in your community, which is what they base all the taxes on and the millage and all the rest of it. Let's say now, after 20 years, it's worth $600,000. So the difference between $250,000 and $600,000 is $350,000, right, Mr. Producer? I'm trying to keep this as simple as I can. So the wealth tax would say you're wealthier by $350,000. And you say, wait a minute, I don't have that money. That's the value that's placed on my house by the assessor or maybe the realtor. Maybe that's the market value, but I don't have that money. There hasn't been a transaction. I've not sold the house. A wealth tax, as they call it, it doesn't matter if you have the money, and it doesn't matter if you sold the house. A 25% wealth tax would say, in its simplest form, you're going to pay 25% of that $350,000, Mr. Producer. Not once, but every single year. Every single year. That's a wealth tax. What it really is a tax on ownership. You own a home. You can't possibly stay in that home if you're paying 25% every year on that $350,000 because you don't have that money. You don't have it once, let alone year after year after year. You'll be forced to sell your home. Then you pay the wealth tax. Then you have to then you have to live in what, an apartment? Okay, let's say we say only for millionaires. Only for millionaires. Now, if you're a millionaire, it's not based on income, a wealth tax. Remember what I said? It's based on value, ownership. Let's say I own a small business. I own a small business. And the business is said by the tax authorities to be worth $5 million. To be worth $5 million. Okay, great. That doesn't mean I have $5 million. I've got a facility. I have employees. I've got infrastructure, computer. I got all kinds of stuff. It's not like I'm making $5 million. The property is worth $5 million. The wealth tax doesn't care. It's an ownership tax. Do you own that building? Yes. Is it worth $5 million? Yes. We get 25% of it. But I don't have the money. I haven't sold the business. I don't care. It's a wealth tax. That is, it's an ownership tax is what I call it. It's an ownership tax. Well, we're only going to do it for billionaires. So why are you worried about it at all? And by the way, you should worry about it, period, because nothing ever stays with billionaires. Once they're in the door is the door. It's open. Most of the money in this country is in the middle class. It's not with the billionaires. It's certainly not with the poor. But let's get the billionaires. If you own a business, whatever business, doesn't matter, that's worth $1 billion. I don't care if you employ 10,000 people who feed their families, another 40,000 people. I don't care if you're making the most important products on the face of the earth. I don't care. We have an ownership tax, a wealth tax, and we want 25% of it. We want $250 million because we assess the value of your home to be of your business to be $1 billion. How long do you think that business is going to stay in business? Now, this wealth tax or ownership tax, is it on an annual level? We don't know. Is it a one-time shot? We don't know. Who will make the assessed value? We can't be certain. Let's say it's a one-time deal, which it's not. But let's pretend. That'll destroy the business. It'll destroy it. And all the jobs, all the salaries, all the pensions, all the medical care that goes with it. She's proposing a 25% wealth, or as I call it again, an ownership tax. She's proposing the nationalization of private health care to be run out of Washington, D.C. She is proposing that she has the ability to snatch, her word, the patents from drug companies. Patents are what make drug companies. All the investments, all the inventions, all the developments, all the employment is built around these patents, which protect for a period of time the development of new drugs. She said, we will snatch them. So they will snatch them. So who will run the drug companies? The government. The government will determine pricing. They don't like the pricing. They will snatch the patents. So they will own the drug companies, nationalize them. How many drugs do you think are going to come out of a government nationalized drug company? How many people who actually know something about developing drugs, scientists and so forth, do you think are going to want to work for the government? They'll hang it up. So the drug companies are gone under Kamala Harris's plan. The government takes over all health care because the government's very efficient, you know. So the hospitals, the urgent cares, doctors will be employees of the government, nurses will be employees of the government, technicians will be employees of the government. That's what happens when you eliminate the private sector. So the government will run it. And not only that, they're going to open up health care, including Medicare and Medicaid, to illegal aliens on day one. Minute they step into the United States, you're not to call them illegal aliens. They are conferred many welfare benefits and many rights that citizens have, driver's licenses and so forth and so on. Many communities want them to vote. So Medicare will be dead. Medicaid will be dead. Social Security will be dead. It's impossible to have so-called insurance programs when the vast majority of the people are taking and not contributing to the program. There's no actuarial basis for figuring out anything. This is the Kamala Harris economy. Oh, I'm not done. Price controls. On top of a owner of that slash wealth tax, on top of nationalizing the drug companies, on top of government-run health care out of Washington, D.C., we're going to have price controls. We're going to control the prices from Washington, D.C., which means horrendous shortages and impoverishment and economic dislocation. That's what happens every time it's tried. Oh, what else? Eliminate fracking. Now, most people don't even know what fracking is. It's the cleanest way to extract natural gas out of the ground. We have massive amounts of it, and oil, massive amounts of it, that had been left behind because we couldn't access it. So the geniuses invented this fracking idea. Ways to get it, and it's very, very clean. They want to eliminate oil pipelines. They want to eliminate fracking. In other words, they want to eliminate access to gasoline and oil and coal. The vast majority of electricity is created by gasoline, oil, and coal. Where's electricity going to come from? Don't tell me solar. Don't tell me wind, because that's a fraction, and it's unreliable. The Democrats and their mouthpieces on TV and radio like to tell you that we have more oil than ever before. You want to know why we do? Because drilling on private land is at a record pace. Drilling on government land, and keep in mind the government controls almost 30% of the land mass of the United States, where tremendous amounts of fuel exist. Almost none of it is taking place. Almost none of it. So we'll destroy the oil industry, Energy independence, well, there won't be energy independence. You can see already they desperately have hit our strategic reserve. They've almost drained it completely. What are they going to do? What are they going to do when we run out of oil and gas? What are they going to do when we don't have enough electricity? Ration. The government will ration. You'll have energy controls. You'll have price controls. You'll have government-run health care. You have government control over the production of drugs. You'll have wealth taxes. You'll have tyranny. Everything I just told you, she has proposed. Are you listening? Everything I've told you, she has proposed. Bernie Sanders burped out the other day that the Biden presidency has seen the greatest progressive agenda implementation since Franklin Roosevelt. What he means is the greatest Marxist socialist implementation. And they're just getting started. They're destroying all the economic barriers, all the legal barriers, all the constitutional barriers. They want to take out the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court is the last stand. And so they've been attacking members of the court. They've been harassing members of the court. They've been trying to open ethical investigations of members of the court, only the constitutionalists. They want to pack the court, and if they can't pack the court, they want to limit the reach of the court. This is a court they used to love. They used to love judicial tyranny when they controlled the judiciary. Every single thing I'm telling you. These are the positions of Kamala Harris. Oh, I'm not done. I forgot. Open borders, where there's no distinction between foreigners who come into the country and American citizens. Open borders. Yes, I forgot. Oh, and eliminate the Electoral College so the Democrats can never lose. So that the parts of the country that control the entire country are 11 blue states with big cities. Everybody else just has to go along. Everybody else just has to go along. They want to eliminate school choice so they can keep up the indoctrination and the poisoning of the minds of our children. In failed public school systems, nobody gets out except them, those who can afford private education, if they'll even allow that to exist. This is who Kamala Harris is, and Bernie Sanders, and AOC. This is an explicitly American Marxist agenda. Explicitly an American Marxist agenda. And they're hiding it. They're hiding it, like they hid Joe Biden. Their media are hiding it. If the American people, not just you, but the vast majority of the American people knew what was going on, she would lose in a landslide. I'm convinced of this. She would lose in a landslide. At this so-called convention, a phony convention, a convention that Maoists, Stalinists, Trotskyites would be so proud of, because it has the veneer of the People's Convention without the people, without the voter. Notice they're not touting these policies. It's basically an anti-Trump convention. That's all it is. Trashing Donald Trump left and right. All the time. And as I said, everybody's telling Trump, don't get personal. Don't get personal. And I don't disagree with that. But they're personal 100% of the time. They're not debating issues. They're lying. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk. Let's get down to work. U.S. Department of Labor, this is a big deal. If it wasn't a big deal, I wouldn't even bother mentioning it to you. Oops, we had a little mistake at the Biden-Harris Department of Labor. What could that be? Well, we were a little off on new jobs that were created. Okay. By how many? Almost a million. Almost a million. That's right, 818,000. What? Jim Garrity, National Review. For the past few days, rumors and reports have indicated the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics was going to downwardly revise their assessment of the number of jobs created from April 2023 to March 2024 by up to 1 million. This means that all beats recorded in the past year will have been misses, and the U.S. job market is in far worse shape than the administration would admit. The administration knew this. They run the Department of Labor, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they kept this secret as long as they could. In a normal presidential campaign where the nominee and her running mate did interviews and press conferences, this would be a major headache. Luckily, Kamala Harris and her campaign have more or less unilaterally decided she doesn't have to do them anymore. Figures like Michael Steele, Rick Wilson, Leslie Gray Streeter have concurred that presidential candidates answering questions in interviews are an unneeded relic of a bygone era. So they're not even going to be questioned about their friggin' lies about the economy. More on this when I return. I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk.
Mark Levin, the great one.
The great one, Mark Levin.
Dial in now, 877-381-3811.
Don't forget, we're going to have Lunden Roberts on the program in hour 3 with her new book, Out of the Shadows, My Life Inside the Wild World of Hunter Biden. We have her interview exclusively. This is the young lady who bore Hunter's child, Jill and Joe's grandchild, and I'm just curious to know how she's been treated and her baby. Don't forget, folks, a couple of things here. Let me ask you a question. What if one day you turn on the radio and I'm not there? Would that bother you? What if one day you turn on your local radio station and I'm not there? Well, I have an idea. Put this in your back pocket. Go to marklevinshow.com, click on Audio Rewind at the top, and pick your favorite podcast platform. so you can actually have the program whenever you want, anytime you want. That is, go to marklevinshow.com, the mothership, click on Audio Rewind at the top, and pick your favorite podcast platform. Or go to your favorite podcast platform and search Mark Levin Show. That is, your favorite podcast platform. Search Mark Levin Show. It's all free. It's all free. When in doubt, just go to marklevinshow.com and we'll show you how to do this. Now, there's more. We have more platforms. You can now find all my full podcasts, including the most recent program, radio program, interviews, specials on YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com at Mark Levin Show. It's that simple. youtube.com at Mark Levin Show. Or you can search Mark Levin Show in YouTube. Mark Levin Show in YouTube. So I suggest you go ahead and lock those down. Back on this U.S. Department of Labor, which overcounted new jobs by 818,000. Ladies and gentlemen, is there anything we can rely on from this government? And of course, Kamala Harris is not available to be questioned on this. As Garrity writes at National Review, the president and his team want to communicate the story of successful economic management. The vice president running for her own term doesn't have the luxury of insisting the economy is doing gangbusters and that inflation is defeated when so many Americans looking at empty storefronts and office spaces are concluding otherwise. The result is reflected in Bernie Sanders' remarks at the convention last night. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have done so much, and more Americans are struggling more than ever. And, quote, in the last 3.5 years working together, we have accomplished more than any government since FDR. But large-scale revision to the nation's jobs report also indicates that one of the dominant narratives in economic reporting for the past year, that the economy is doing gangbusters with robust job creation, so why are Americans so gloomy about the economy, was, at a minimum, flawed. But in reality, it was government propaganda from Harris, Biden. The Labor Department is run by politicians. So for a year, you've been told about all this job growth, that the economy's going gangbusters, that they inherited this terrible economy and they've turned things around. No, they haven't. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. And they're going to get more lies out there, more propaganda, and they don't figure we'll catch up with it on time. Because they have their media boys and girls helping them out. So they figure, gee, by the time you do find out about it, it's just too damn late. Want to hear another one? You want to hear another one? By the people who want to run your health care? By the people who want to run your energy? Your drug companies? And everything else? Our grocery stores? Here we go. From the Blaze. Federal government did not properly track, ready for this, up to 320,000 unaccompanied minors. No assurance they are safe from trafficking, by Candace Hathaway. Has anybody heard this story? DHS Inspector General report claims ICE is unable to monitor the location and status of all unaccompanied migrant children. A new disturbing report from the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Inspector General found that the federal government has not been properly tracking the whereabouts of approximately 320,000 unaccompanied migrant minors. As such, it cannot guarantee that children are not being subjected to trafficking and exploitation. They're not talking about this at the Democrat convention. Their media aren't talking about this. This is the Blaze. This is the Blaze media, which I'm very proud of. The August 19 report, August 19, ladies and gentlemen, that's 2 days ago. Have you heard about this? From the Inspector General, Joseph Kafari, whom former President Donald Trump nominated. Oh, How do you like that? Revealed that Immigration and Customs Enforcement has been unable to monitor the status of hundreds of thousands of children released from the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Health and Human Services. Now, Kamala Harris says we do not want detention centers, which is the only place you can put children to figure out who they are and whether they're with somebody who is actually a family member or a kidnapper or a sex trafficker. She wants to do away with all those. 320. So who's responsible for this? It's either Biden or Harris and Biden. They can't just say, I'm not the borders. You're the vice president of the United States. But don't worry, she supports abortion. 320,000 children, they can't track them, so be it. But don't worry, she supports kids. Oh, yeah. They want more government. More examples of their competence. Oh, excuse me, we're up by 818,000 when it comes to jobs. Just so happens it helps Biden and Harris. Oh, excuse me, there's 320,000 unaccompanied migrants. We don't know where the hell they are. What do you expect us to do? Unaccompanied minors who cross the southern border are apprehended by Customs and Border Protection and then transferred to HHS, which is then responsible for finding and vetting sponsors for the children. In theory, these sponsors are supposed to be close relatives of the minors. But under the Harris-Biden administration, the immigration system has become so overwhelmed that HHS employees are pressured to make placements quickly. In other words, get them off the books. And so sponsors are not thoroughly vetted to ensure they're actually related to the children. In 2021, federal employees blew the whistle, whistleblowers, on the department, claiming that it was putting children in dangerous situations, including likely placing minors with traffickers, sex traffickers. One of those HHS whistleblowers, Tara Lee Rodas, previously testified that the agency lost immediate contact with 85,000 unaccompanied alien children. Well, of course, let them run, the drug companies. Of course, let them determine pricing in our grocery stores. Of course. Why wouldn't you get rid of our private health care so the government, Harris, can run it? A July report from the Wall Street Journal revealed that the Biden-Harris administration repeatedly overrode the concerns of lower-level workers and housed the children with guardians who had previously been rejected as sponsors. Can you imagine? The recent report from the Inspector General found an, quote, urgent issue, unquote, warning that, quote, ICE cannot always monitor the location and status of unaccompanied migrant children who are released from DHS and HHS custody. I keep saying on Fox, on Blaze, behind this microphone, we have the greatest level of slavery going on in this country right now since the end of the Civil War. Slavery of women, children. Little girls and little boys, men too, but especially women and little kids, into sex slavery, into labor slavery. 85,000 unaccompanied alien children, that's an immediate issue, but they don't know. They can't track 320,000 of them. This is why I raised my voice. But don't worry, they're having a great convention. They're showing joy and unity. It's fantastic. Oh, it's unbelievable. We've never seen anything so united and swell as we've seen in Chicago. And no joke, they have militarized the areas around that convention center. They have cops from Chicago and all surrounding areas. They have National Guard in the wings. They have fence after fence, pushed back all the protesters. Meanwhile, the people in the neighborhoods, the people in the communities, they're still suffering from rampant crime. Now, the recent report from the Inspector General found an urgent issue here. According to the report, of the 448,000, it's 500,000 unaccompanied minors from fiscal years 2019 to 2023 transferred from ICE custody to HHS. 32,000 failed to appear for their immigration court hearings. That means the adults are not bringing them in. Additionally, as of May, ICE did not serve notice to appear documents to more than 291,000 minors. Although we identified more than 32,000 unaccompanied, they call them, who did not appear for their immigration court dates, the number may have been much larger had ICE issued NTAs to the more than 291,000 who were not placed in removal proceedings. And by not issuing NTAs, notices to appear, to all the unaccompanied minors, ICE limits its chances of having contact when they are released, which reduces opportunities to verify safety. Kamala Harris wants to get rid of ICE and detention centers. And the border's wide open. Kamala Harris, who has already overseen as vice president the greatest level of human slavery since the end of the Civil War, and human trafficking, would do even more with open borders, elimination of detention centers. Don't call illegal aliens illegal, and all the rest of it. America better wake the hell up fast. This is already a disaster. But can you imagine she's president? They control the Senate and the House. They change the Supreme Court. This country will never be the same. It will collapse. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk. Next hour, we will have Lunden Roberts on the program, who gave birth to a grandchild of the Bidens. And she's written a book. She's asked to come on, and we're more than happy to find out exactly what is transpiring. Folks, America is unraveling. Our founding and history are under assault. Our families and faiths are being degraded. Individualism has been substituted for groupism, Color blindness is now racist. Capitalism and property are being devoured by economic socialism and climate change fanaticism. Classrooms have become indoctrination mills for racism, segregation, bigotry, and sexual perversion. Teachers' unions are hostile to parental involvement in critical decisions about the health and welfare of their children. In America, free speech and academic freedom are shrinking. The police state is growing, as is monitoring and spying on citizens. The government is banning and regulating more and more household products, from incandescent light bulbs to dishwashers, you name it, everything in between. In your home, you're losing your right to make your own decisions. Crime is out of control on our streets, public transportation, and schools, while police budgets are slashed, and many prosecutors and judges coddle violent criminals. Our borders are wide open, and it goes on and on and on. Who's responsible for this? That's from the beginning of the book. The Democrat Party hates America. There they are at their convention, so-called. The party that hates America. The party that hates America. Say it because it's true. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. The Power Hour has begun. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. You union members out there, I want to tell you something. From Fox Business, Teamsters president responds to apparent Democrat National Committee snub. Quote, failed to invite one of the most powerful unions in the United States. Teamsters President Sean O'Brien is addressing the Democrat National Convention for reportedly snubbing him following his historic speech at the Republican convention last month. O'Brien, a self-proclaimed lifelong Democrat, argued that the convention, quote, failed to invite one of the most powerful unions in the United States. And for that, they would be criticized. He said, you know, the reality is they didn't invite us. We've been around for 121 years. We're going to continue to be around for 121 years, he said during his appearance on Neil Cavuto's show. He suggested that taking on the corporate elitists could have been the deciding factor in whether he received an invitation to the Democrats' convention. I wonder what he thinks about them taking away his members' health care and turning it over to the federal government. He said, I talked about corporate elitists. I talked about the Ubers of the world, the Lyfts of the world. I talked about Amazon at the RNC. Well, those are big donor classes for the RNC, but they're also big donor classes for the DNC. Hey, let me tell you something, pal, head of the Teamsters. Stop playing games. Stop playing both sides. The fact is that working Americans, union and non-union, are being badly undermined by this government. That's the bottom line. You can't have a foot in both camps. The fact is, it's conservatives who believe in working people. It's conservatives who believe in opportunity. It's conservatives who believe in competition. It's the private sector that creates wealth. Creates wealth for the businesses and for the employees. That's where the health care comes from. That's where the pensions come from. The Democrat Party is all about empowering itself, the Democrat Party, and empowering the government in order to empower itself. It's not about the Teamsters. It's not about non-union workers. It's not about workers at all. And it's about time people get this through their brains. The Democrat Party is the party of centralized government. The Democrat Party is the party of economic socialism and cultural Marxism. That's what it is. Stop playing games. It's not about corporate elitists, although there's plenty of them. We got a bigger problem. It's about government elitists. I ask you, union members who have good health care programs, do you want the government to nationalize your program and throw you in with everybody else in a massive welfare state of mismanagement, of incompetence, of long lines, of limited service? Because that's where you're headed. It's government elites. They're the problem. I ask you folks that go to a pharmacy, and even though you complain and whine about prices, most of the drugs you have are very affordable, and you're not paying the full cost. You're paying a fraction of the cost. What if you got in line and those drugs didn't exist anymore? What if you got in line and you thought there ought to be a new drug to take care of whatever ailment or disease you have, but there's no pharmaceutical companies to produce them anymore? Because that's what the Democrat Party stands for. That's where they're dragging us. What if you turn on the switch and the lights don't come on? What if you wait in long lines with your electric vehicle because there is no electricity on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays? Or what if you wait in long lines at the gas station because there is no gas on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Sundays? That's where you're headed. When you choke the golden goose to death, there are no golden eggs. That's the way it works. So who's going to redistribute? Who's going to ration? The government. The government. And you're going to go without. You're used to a lot of wonderful things in this free market capitalist society. You're used to walking into Costco or BJ's, into Walmarts or CVS and Walgreens. You're used to walking into your supermarket, pretty much anything you want. Walk into the pharmacy, you get this, you get that. You'll get nothing. Nothing. So all patriotic Americans who love this country need to wake the hell up. I don't care if you're union or non-union. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. I don't care if you never voted for it. It's time to vote. I don't care if you're black or white or in between. I don't care if you're male or female, you're transitioning. Better wake the hell up. You better wake the hell up. Because the tyranny is here. It's not on the horizon. It's not on the other side of the mountain. It is here, right in the valley. And it's not going away on its own. That's for sure. All the signs are out there. All the statements. All the video clips and audio clips. They're all there for the watching, for the listening. They're the truth. Not the media. Ignore the media. Use the technologies available to every citizen in your home. See what's going on. See what they say. See what they're doing. Ignore this phony convention. Ignore the reporters who are reporting on the phony convention. That's a clown show. That's all it is. We have it good in this country because you've had your freedom. We have it good in this country because you've been able to exercise your free will. You've been able to earn an income. You work hard, but you've been able to earn an income. You've been able to keep some of the money. You've been able to take care of your family. You go into a store, you expect there to be things. You flip on the light, you expect there to be lights. You get in a car, you expect it to have gasoline. Well, guess what? Every one of those things is under attack. These are evil people. I don't care if they smile. I don't care if they cackle. I don't care if they're the wonderful Obama couple. I could care less. The world is full of dictators who have charisma, full of dictators who can smile, full of dictators who give great speeches, full of dictators who talk about the people and the elitists and class warfare and the rich as they get richer and richer and the people get poorer and poorer. People have suffered horrendously all over the world, including right in our hemisphere, from these policies. You better reject them. More times than not, people vote in their own tyranny. They just can't believe that things will get so bad. They just can't believe somebody like Mark Levin. It's just too negative. Oh, no. We need comedians. We need entertainers. Trust me on this. There are people who believe that. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Welcome back, America. We're here with Lunden Roberts. Out of the Shadows is her brand new book. You can get it at Amazon.com, any major bookstore. Out of the Shadows. My Life Inside the Wild World of Hunter Biden. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So let me ask you some basic questions, and your book is very, very thorough. Have you, and the America would like to know, have you heard from Joe or Jill Biden?
I have not. I haven't heard anything from them. About a year ago, they gave a statement to People magazine acknowledging Navy for the first time. But, that's all. That's all that I know.
So they have no interest in meeting her? They've never indicated any interest in meeting her? Is that correct?
Correct. Not to my knowledge.
That's too bad, because
it was portrayed to me that they have a misunderstanding of me and my intentions due to the litigation around Navy, trying to get Hunter to take accountability. And so I think that they stay kind of reserved. And my attorney had told me that, you know, grandparents don't normally step in until the father does. And so I never really expected them to initially, maybe in time, but I did, you know, expect her father to.
And how old is she now?
She will be 6 this month on the 28th.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I'm a grandfather. Flesh and blood means everything. However it comes about, it's still a little kid, a little baby. And she didn't do anything wrong. That's just my own view of things.
Yeah. I agree 100%. You know, it's family over politics in our world.
Do you hear much from Hunter these days?
I do not. He found out about my book being released. You know, when you write a book, or in this case, I had to sign something saying that I couldn't tell anyone about it until a certain date. And before I could tell him, my publicist had released some information to the media, and so he was kind of caught off guard and not really sure of my intentions. But I think the book speaks for itself, and now he is, you know, sitting back. But it's like I've told everyone else. I think I kind of have the same mindset as you when it comes to that. Nothing can keep me from my daughter and my flesh and my blood. And, you know, if he thinks that a book that I wrote about my journey and my truth is going to keep him from having a relationship with his daughter, then shame on him.
How's your daughter doing? Did she handle this, or she's just a little kid who has a good life and a good time?
Well, she is a little kid that has a very good life and a very good time, but, you know, there's also some sad times. And, you know, some of those sad times are in the book when she realizes, you know, that her mother's there all the time, and she sees these other kids who have a mother and a father, and she gets to question, and, you know, why do I not have a father? And so I tell her about, you know, who her father is, and there's a lot of sad moments like that in the book that I have to, you know, be there for her and tell her when she's like, you know, why don't they come and visit me? How come they never want to see me? You know, and I find myself making excuses to not break her heart because I feel those are answers that, you know, she should be getting from them. It shouldn't be on me to answer those hard questions. But as her mother, you know, I do the best I can to be open with her. I don't ever want to lie. And I want her to be resilient as possible and to grow up that way. But there's also a quick story I'll tell you. A few weeks ago, she knows her grandfather is president, and that's what she knows him by. You know, she knows my dad is Pappy, someone that she sees every day and gets to hug on and love on. And then she knows her other grandfather is just president, and so he's on TV sometimes. And she saw a couple weeks ago Donald Trump was on TV. And she said, "Mom, is that my grandfather?" And I looked up and I saw Donald Trump, and I'm hurrying to look for a remote. And I said, nope, that's not him. And she said, they called him president. And I was like, well, people take turns at president. I was like, it's more complicated than you know. I said, your grandfather is the current president. Oh, okay. Well, then fast forward to just the other day, she's sitting there and Donald Trump's on TV again. She says, "Mom, I don't think I'm ever going to meet my grandfather." And I just looked at her and I said, "You don't? Why?" And she said, "Because if he's as busy as that man is, I'll never get to meet him. That man's everywhere."
That's funny.
I started laughing, but I just told her, I said, "Listen, sis, that's up to God. Whether you meet him or not, know that God meant for it to happen, or he didn't want it to happen for a greater purpose. And we don't always understand that. But all we know is everything happens with God's timing and God's purpose. And so if it happens, God meant for it to. And if it doesn't, God didn't want it to." She just kind of shook her head and she says, "Mommy, you know who I really, really, really want to see?" I said, "Who?" And she said, "My daddy. I just want to give him one real big hug." And, you know, moments like that are heartbreaking for a mother.
Yes, they are. I'm so sorry. The book is Out of the Shadows, My Life Inside the Wild World of Hunter Biden by Lunden Roberts. You know, this isn't a malicious book. It isn't a book about sex. It's none of that. It's a book about a young woman, caught up in a situation. You have a child. You're protecting your child. You want to raise your child. You want your child to know her father and her grandfather. And you're up against a very, very powerful family. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, all of which is in the book. Okay. So I'm not causing any, and my goal is not to cause any issues here or embarrass or anything else. How did you meet Hunter Biden the first time?
I actually met Hunter Biden at Rosemont Seneca, which was his firm in the Swedish embassy, the House of Sweden. And I was invited there by a friend. I had actually been out, honestly and truly, I believe I was out at like a Rose Bar that night in DuPont Circle. And afterwards, I had got called from a friend, and she was going over there, and she wanted a wingman, and I went with her. And from there, I run into him, and we spend the night talking. And, even though with the paraphernalia in front of him and, he's standing there in these boxer briefs, initially you would think to run. But, you can blame it on being young and dumb, but I connected to him. I empathized in what he was going through. I saw this demon on his back, and I saw this broken man in front of me, and then, I realized who he is in conversation, and it's just, my heart broke for him. And
don't hang up. I got to take a hard break. Out of the Shadows, My Life Inside the Wild World of Hunter Biden by Lunden Roberts. That's who we're talking to, Lunden Roberts. She has a beautiful daughter, Navy. And this is a very, very fascinating book. You can get it at Amazon.com. It's on my social site. You can order it immediately. We'll be right back with Lunden Roberts.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
We're talking to Lunden Roberts, who wrote the book Out of the Shadows, My Life Inside the Wild World of Hunter Biden, her beautiful daughter, Navy. In London, you were telling us about the first time you met Hunter Biden, and how long did you know him? Or how long were you with him, I guess I should say. What's that, a year?
I knew him for on and off, and he was in a dark place at that time, and I'm pretty candid. He's been pretty candid with it, and I was pretty candid with what I saw, and an addict's personality is sometimes they're there and sometimes they're not. And so, through the course of the year, I might see him 2 weeks straight, and then I might not see him for another 2 weeks. He would come and he would go. And, but it was about a year when I found out I was pregnant.
And you write in the book, look, if I could take back some of my youth, I would. That you were a little out of control, you were wild, you did stuff you wish you hadn't done, and so forth and so on. But now you have a child, and that affected you in a very significant way, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And did Hunter Biden want you to have this child?
He never said that he didn't. He never asked me to have an abortion, and he made it very clear when I told him that I was pregnant. He made it very clear that he would support me and be there for me and respect whatever decision I made. And, with that, he would support and be there regardless. And he had even, said that he could not have a child on this earth and not be in its life.
But it hasn't worked out that way, has it?
Yeah, no, it hasn't.
And has anybody from the family reached out to you? Anybody?
No, I've so far the only thing that has happened is, last year he was court ordered, and him and I agreed upon it when we first sat down for the first time since I was pregnant, and he agreed to, connect with her through his art. He claims, the two things that got him through his darkest days were art and family. And so he wanted to start building a relationship with her through his art. And it would be, start with one Zoom call a month. And she would pick out a painting to be hers. And, then they started building a relationship, and it was a couple times a month. And then it was, a few times or a couple times a week. Her first T-ball game, he wants to talk to her before it and give her, a little pep talk. And that relationship was growing.
And then?
And then he found out about me writing the book. And, it's kind of come to a standstill. And I tell people all the time,
but Navy didn't write the book. You wrote the book.
That's why I say if a book can keep him from being a father, and my journey as a mother speaking about my journey as a mother and what I've gone through can keep him from being a father, then shame on him. No, Navy didn't write a book, but I promise you, years from now, when she's able to look back at all of this, she will have this book to hold in her hands and to read. She'll know who I am. She'll know who raised her, and I can only pray that she would be proud of me for standing 10 toes down and doing this, despite the narrative that was against it.
Does she seem? You're trying to give her a stable environment. You have your family, your parents involved. Does she seem to be a happy young child?
Oh yes. She's very happy, and she's the only granddaughter of my parents. They have all grand boys, and so she is spoiled rotten to the core.
Well, that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes you could get the best of her, though.
So what is an average day like for you and her? Are you working? How are you proceeding?
I do. I spend a lot of time right now. I spent the last 6 months writing a book. So
it's a very good book, by the way. I just want America to know this isn't National Enquirer stuff. It's a very good book about a young lady and her life and her involvement with Hunter Biden and the Biden family and her beautiful daughter and how she and her family are raising her daughter. It really is a very, very good book. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's kind of been hectic here lately, but I mean, most days consist of, me and her. We go through, like kindergarten kits and different things like that, trying to engage in certain things. She loves Barbies. She'll play with her Barbies in her room, and we spend time. We'll go to Yaya and Pappy's, who are my parents, and, they've got her 4-wheeler. They've got a swimming pool out there. They've got all this fun stuff, and we'll go, Dad has a bunch of land with trails on it, and she loves to go out there in the trails and listen to country music. And, she's into everything. It's kind of like today I was filling out a thing for her, and it said, what I want to be when I get older. And I said, okay, what do you want to be when you get older? And she sat there for a little bit and she thought about it. She's like, I either want to be an artist or a cowgirl.
There you go.
I said, what? I said, how do those two go together? She said, well, I know if I'm an artist, I'd make my dad proud. But if I was a cowgirl, I'd really make my pappy proud.
Sounds like a very intelligent little girl. Let me ask you this.
She's very, very, very intelligent.
Yeah. Your father and your mother, what do they think of Hunter and Joe and Jill?
Well, my dad will say this, and, it's no secret. My mom and dad are conservative. My dad's been on Trump, on hunts with Trump Jr. and stuff. They communicate, and it's no secret. Dad will let everyone know, listen, when we come here, we don't discuss politics. We don't talk about it because there's one thing I will say, and that is Hunter Biden gave me my greatest blessing when he gave me my granddaughter. And I will not sit here and say anything negative towards him. And, he even, the first time he met Donald Trump Jr. on a hunt, he told him when he walked up, Donald Trump Jr. wanted to meet Dad because Dad had done a gun for him. And when they met, Dad just told him, he said, listen, family's off limits. And he said, no, man. He said, I totally get that, and I respect that. This isn't about that.
What's your father think of Joe?
It's family over politics.
Yeah. What about Joe not having any contact with your daughter? What's he think about that?
They don't understand it. But,
Neither do I.
I don't understand it. I don't know anyone that can wrap their head around it, because it seems like acknowledging a child and being in their life and loving them and accepting them would be a feather in his hat. It would humanize the first family. His polls would have went up if you just accept a child, because I think that's the one thing that no one really understands as to why. And
I guess Hunter never told his father and Jill to accept his daughter either, because I think that would have had an influence, no?
I would think so. I know if the shoe were on the other foot and I had a child out there, I would acknowledge and accept the child from the time I know it's mine. Yes. And two, I would hope that my family would follow. And, it's kind of, my dad has said before, if I knew that I had a grandchild out there and y'all kept it from me and then I find out I do, I don't care what you have to say about it. I'm going to see it. And
I agree with your dad. Yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm. That's your blood. It's
That's
your little
right.
girl. And
right.
the rest of it doesn't matter. Be perfectly. You have a chapter, Call Me Trump. What's that all about?
Mm-hmm. I believe that's the chapter where I see Hunter for the first time. And that's when he had filed a child support dispute to lower his child support. Mm-hmm. And I did not think that he would come to Arkansas because he had, through the paternity suit and everything, he did everything he could to settle outside of court so he did not have to come to Arkansas. And so I get to court, and I'm thinking somehow this is going to be dismissed or something before it even gets started because there's no way he's showing up. And then I see him, and he was unrecognizable to the Hunter that I once knew. The Hunter that I once knew was always, going to the Four Seasons and getting facials, getting spray tans, doing stuff to maintain. He really cared about how he looked, and he was happier almost. Even in a dark place, even in the dark place that he was in, there were moments where he would laugh, and you would see this joy, and that was all gone. He looked like a shell of a person that I once knew when I saw him for the first time that day. And I talk about how in court, I can only say a couple things that I can remember them talking about text messages. They want all my messages or anything in my phone that had Hunter involved in it. And my attorney stood up and said, okay, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So we'll do the same thing. We want all Hunter's text messages and everything in his phone.
That's normal.
And that is literally the only thing that I remember from the court because I sat there the entire time just looking at the table in front of me and thinking about that person that I had just seen that I hadn't seen since, I was pregnant. But at the same time, he just looked like a shell of a person I once knew, and he just looked drained. He looked, and for, someone that I should hate, someone that I should be so mad at, and was for so long, I sympathized. I had sympathy for him. And, when I got to my family after court, they were all like, man, he just looked so pitiful. And he did. He looked so sad and so broken, and he had been through so much, and my heart went out to him. And so I talk about, call me Trump, but where's Hunter? Where's the Hunter I once knew? This isn't him.
It's not your burden, but you got to think about his father and Jill. They must see what you saw. And I don't know. My kids would be more important to me, and my granddaughter would be more important to me than running for president of the United States, or certainly trying to run again. I can just tell you that.
Absolutely. And there's in one of the chapters, I talk about being in Delaware with Hunter, and there was a knock at the door, and it was his dad. And he goes out, and he shuts the door behind him, and he's talking to him outside, and I sneak through the kitchen, trying to look out the window, see who's here. And I can see Hunter's back is to me, and Joe is facing him. So he's facing, the house. And I can see Joe's face. And Hunter was in a dark place. And Hunter was really messed up at that time when he was out there talking to him. And I remember looking to the window, and, I've always said I never want to be able to relate to the look on his face, because here he was, one of the most powerful men in the world. And he's looking at his son in this place, knowing, this is a battle that he can't win for him. And this is a battle that he can't pull him out of. Hunter has to do it himself. And there was so much pain on Joe's face. And that was the first time, that I'd actually seen him in person. And I was just, my heart broke for him. And then I have a child, and my heart broke even more. about thinking about the look on his face that day.
Lunden Roberts, unfortunately, I have to go. I should have spent more time discussing this book with you. It's a fascinating book. It's a very, very compelling book. Out of the Shadows, My Life Inside the Wild World of Hunter Biden. And you learn a lot about the Biden family and, of course, about you and your beautiful daughter and your family. And I would encourage people who are interested in this, grab your copy, go to Amazon.com, any of my social sites. We have it linked. Out of the Shadows, My Life Inside the Wild World of Hunter Biden. My purpose in interviewing you is not to exploit anybody, but you and your folks wanted to talk about your story, and it's a story worth reading about and talking about. It's very, very, it's very compassionate, very compelling.
I truly believe so, too. And, this book isn't to exploit anyone or to harm anyone, but it is to tell my story because, I want my daughter to know that I stood 10 toes down and I told it. But I also feel that there are so many women that go through different times like this and this lonely pregnancy and these dark times that I truly feel like it could impact lives. And if it can help one other person in their journey, then I think, it's worth getting out there.
And you gave birth and you have a beautiful daughter, and there's a lesson in that, too. Thank you so much, Lunden Roberts. The book is Out of the Shadows. You can get it at Amazon.com, on my social sites and so forth. God bless. Best to you and your daughter and your family. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Book is Out of the Shadows by Lunden Roberts. She sounds like she's matured into a very nice young lady and a very loving mother, quite frankly. Once again, I want to thank you for being the greatest of all audiences, loyal as hell, patriotic as hell, smart as hell. And I'm blessed to have you out there from sea to shining sea. New York and Philadelphia, Chicago and L.A., every town in between, whether you be of a small town or a large town. Thank each and every one of you. Don't forget, you can always listen to the podcast. Go to the marklevinshow.com, click on Audio Rewind at the top, pick your favorite podcast platform, and there you are. And I want to salute all you heroes out there. Thank you. And we'll be right back here tomorrow. I'll see you then. God bless.